Now let's go over the returning players on Syracuse football's defensive line and their roles. Let's start off with Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff. He is 6'4", 289 pounds, so let's round up to 290 pounds. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and he projects as a starting defensive tackle. He's only made one start in 3 seasons at Syracuse, so this is going to be a great opportunity to earn a lot of playing time on this team. Okay, this is a great opportunity for Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff. It's also a great opportunity for him to shed his reputation. And I really feel bad for players and for athletes and for coaches who are known for a mistake, right? And there's more high-profile ones than Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff. You can look at the NFL and Scott Norwood for the Bills, right? When he missed that kick. And I'm sorry to the Bills fans who are watching or listening, but nobody remembers that Scott Norwood was once an all-pro kicker in the NFL, right? They just remember that he missed that kick in the Super Bowl that lost the Bills the game, right? So it sucks when a player or a coach is known for a bad mistake or a bad play. But for Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff, at least for me, that is the case. He was the player that committed the late hit out of bounds a couple years ago against Clemson on the road. If you recall, Syracuse was the 14th ranked team in the country. It was late in the third quarter. The team was up by 11 points on Clemson. They were on their way to an upset. They were on their way. They had already forced a young Cade Klubnik into the game because Clemson benched their starter. It was DJ Uiagalelei. They benched him for Cade Klubnik. It was his first action, I believe, in college football. Syracuse is up 11. They have Clemson at a 3rd and 25. And Klubnik rolls to his right. He's basically out of bounds, about 20 yards short of the marker. And Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff commits a dumb penalty. A late hit out of bounds. It had to be called. And I understand in that game there were other controversies, right? The refs missed a late hit on Garrett Schrader in the fourth quarter. But they didn't miss that one on Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff. And it changed the game. Syracuse was up 11. They end up losing the game. Clemson goes down the field on that drive, scores a touchdown. So Elijah Fuentes-Cundiff, he's known that was the play, right? And it sucks that he's known for that. So hopefully this year he can shed that reputation, have a really strong season, and make us forget about what happened a couple years ago. Now let's move on to Denis Jaquez. He is 6'4", 260 pounds with 2 years of eligibility left. He projects as the other starting defensive end alongside Fadil Diggs. He's had injury history. The last 2 seasons, it's been cut short, so he's only played 12 games in 2 years and just 3 starts in 2023 in his entire college career. Last year, though, he had 12 tackles, 1.5 sacks is pretty decent. The goal for Denis Jaquez this year is to stay healthy. Period, end of story. 12 games in 2 years, has dealt with injuries. Obviously, sometimes you can't control injuries, right? But the goal, stay healthy. Stay on the field. Next up is Kevin Jobity. He is 6'4", 280 pounds with 2 years of eligibility left. He projects as a rotational backup that can play anywhere along the defensive line. And it's always good to have that versatility, whether you can play inside or outside. He's appeared in 21 career games in 2 seasons for this team. Last year, he had 30 tackles and 7 tackles for loss. Think about that for a second. 30 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and he projects maybe to be a backup for this season. That's solid. That's solid. You would take those numbers as a starter. 30 tackles, 7 for loss. You take that as a starter, but for Kevin Jobity, a backup rotational piece, pretty solid backup right there. Finally, another returner here. Let's go with Braylen Ingraham, 6'4", 315 pounds. So he's a big boy. This is just his final year of eligibility left. He was an Alabama transfer. Heading into last season. He was once a consensus 4-star recruit, but by the time he had transferred to Syracuse, he didn't really play much at Alabama and was a 3-star transfer. And last season, I don't believe he started a game, but he did play all 13 of them. He had 16 tackles, 3 of which were for a loss. He's a fine backup, but at this point for Braylen Ingraham, I think I would not expect him to live up to the recruiting expectation that he had. I don't think that's going to happen. He wasn't able to do it last year. This is last year of eligibility, 5th year overall in college. I don't see it. Maybe he can prove me wrong. But overall, Braylen Ingraham, I think, is a solid backup for this team next season. And you need depth. You always need depth. Period. End of story. Especially in football. In football, you cannot rely on 1 or 2 players, because if you do and they get hurt, we saw with Oronde Gaston last season, you're done. You're done, right? So you need depth. And I think Braylen Ingraham, along with Kevin Jobity, provides solid depth along the defensive line from the returners.